Take two. Okay, here we go. Going live.
Murder at 1051 Ramsdale Drive. What happened to David Crowley, his wife, and his daughter? If this was truly a double murder-suicide, why did investigators fail to prove David Crowley guilty? Where is the evidence David Crowley killed his wife and daughter? Where is the evidence David Crowley killed himself? Within 24 hours of finding the bodies of David, Komel, and Raniya Crowley, the Apple Valley Police Department were treating the incident as a double murder-suicide. Authorities cannot prove David wrote Allahu Akbar in his wife's blood on the living room wall. Authorities cannot prove David wrote I have loved you all with all of my heart on a laptop in the kitchen. Authorities cannot prove David wrote Open the Rise most recent version Submit to Allah Now on a notepad in his office bedroom. Authorities cannot prove the dog trapped inside the house ate David's right hand, both of Komel's hands, and their daughter's right arm, since dog feces tests were never done. Authorities did not know about a bullet that rolled out of a living room carpet until they were notified by the cleaning company, 2 days after the bodies were found. That bullet would later be tied to Raniya Crowley. Authorities did not see the bullet hole in the living room ceiling or the bullet in the attic above until they questioned David's friend a month after the bodies were found. Authorities did not find a motive to support their accusations against David Crowley. Authorities did not find David's blood on any of the bullets at the crime scene. Authorities do not know when David, Komel, and Raniya Crowley died. What we know for sure is that David Crowley has not been proven guilty.
Dun dun dun. We are live. It is January 17th, 2022. And I'm going to bring this up. And let's see. Stop screen share so everybody here can see me. How is everyone?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Doing good.
Life is good, no problems. Another beautiful day here.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah, something like that for sure. So I want to thank you both for making sure that this happened. I've been contacted by one or two other people, and I had completely forgot what today was, and that we're at 7 years here. So I do appreciate that and appreciate everyone kind of um, keeping us up to date and keeping this case going. And we appreciate everybody watching, everybody listening. It's always nice on YouTube when you have four people in the chat and the live chat on my end says 0. So that's always a great way to kind of start this thing off. But hey, that's what we do here. So apparently we all don't count for some reason, but which is
Mine
all
says
right.
two.
Oh, two? Okay. Yeah. Oh, mine jumped to 1. So all right, cool. Yeah. We're all 1. That's what it's saying. For you, we're all
Well,
2.
and I want everybody to know I probably will not be responding much in chat. So I'll leave that to Greg and Sophie. Not being rude, I just won't be responding today.
Okay. That's all right, no problem. Thank you everybody for watching this on the YouTube channel and watching this live at any time that you watch it, or if you're going to watch it later, we definitely appreciate that. I know it's late. It's late for me, so I know it's late for both of you. It's probably late for other people here too. Crip Rick, thanks for joining in the chat room as well. I'm pretty sure it's even later for you since you're in Canada over there. So. Um, what we're going to do here is start off where we've been wanting to start off. So I'm going to now start sharing so that both of you two can see my screen, and I hope you both can.
Yep.
Excellent. And with that, we're going to jump right into this. We're going to look back at January 17th, 2015, when all of this happened here. Okay, so let's do it.
Police and fire, how may I help you?
Yes, this is Judy Procknell, and I live at 1055 Ramsdale Drive.
Yes.
I think there's been a murder or suicide next door.
What's going on?
Well, we've noticed that they haven't been around, and there were Christmas presents on the stoop, so I went over there, and there's a dog in the house, and there's definitely some bodies in the living room.
Oh, okay. Stay on the line with me just a minute. Do you know what their address is?
Well, I'm 1055, and they would be to the west of me.
Okay, the house, so...
Like 1050 or whatever.
Okay, so if I'm facing and looking at your house, Judy, would it be the house to the right or the left?
If you're facing my house, it would be your right.
To the right. What are you seeing in there?
It just looks like there's a pile of bodies, and one, like the head is eaten off.
Oh, no.
I suppose by the dog. And my husband thought they were dummies, but the hands look real. And they would have been there since before Christmas.
Okay, and so you haven't seen...
And all their Christmas lights are still on in the house. And my husband said he saw a gun.
On the floor?
Yeah.
Okay, stay on the line with me just a minute, please.
It'd be a husband, wife, and child.
Stay on the line with me. I'll get some people rolling over there. You saw Christmas presents?
Colin, I'm calling 911.
You saw presents inside the home too?
There's presents on the front step, and they've been there since before Christmas. 4933, are you available? And there's definite. I just peeked in the front window, and it's gross. Colin, what's their address? 1051 Ramsdale Drive.
Okay,
Don't look in the window, Lorraine.
1051 Ramsdale Drive. Okay.
Right.
And you said that...
Lorraine, don't look in there. No.
So it looks
Don't look in there.
It looks like multiple bodies inside?
Yes.
And it looks like the dog may have been...
Yes.
Okay, you saw the gun on the floor there?
Yes, my husband saw it. He's not here right now. He's talking to the other neighbor. We hadn't seen any movement over there. We just thought they were gone for Christmas, and we came back from Florida this week, and we still hadn't seen, and the presents were still there, so my husband went over there to check.
Okay. They thought they were gone for Christmas, haven't seen any movement.
So there hasn't been anything movement there since before Christmas. They haven't shoveled. Excuse me, I think I have to throw up.
Okay, yeah, okay, ma'am. I won't keep you any longer, okay, Judy?
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the call. I got help coming, okay?
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is the 911 call. And let me see, I'll go ahead and stop this screen share here for both of you. Hope it's still coming through okay. And there may be a little, maybe something happening on YouTube as well, but that's all right. We will make do here. Let's see if I could do this active one. There we go. That's a little better. So, any thoughts on the 911 call? No?
You don't have anything to say, Sophia?
No, this isn't about her.
Right.
No, it's pretty cut and dry.
Pretty cut and dry.
And I like how Sophia put that because this really is more about remembering the family, and
Mhm.
I don't want to bring attention to her at this time. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear I can hear Colin in the background there, so it does make me think, I thought that they're really close when they're both making their calls.
Yeah.
So telling people, she's telling the dispatch what she sees, and you can compare that to Colin's 911 call, and you can kind of compare that. We have that if anybody wants to go through that. The transcripts are there on my website, thegraystage.wordpress.com, so everybody can go and listen to that, and you can read the actual transcripts for yourself and um, go from there. So that's where all of this starts out here. On the day that the bodies were found, it starts with that 911 call. And then at 12:59, the Apple Valley police officers are dispatched to the house, and at 1:04 p.m., AVPD patrol arrives at the house, and it's Officer Broughton, Sergeant Dahlstrom, and Officer Keeler who enter the house and clear the resident. I think it's just two of them, if I remember correctly. I don't
Mhm.
think it's three. Um, so we'll go through that one.
The
And
initial call comes in at 12:56. The first officers arrive at 1:04. So within 8 minutes, they had officers on scene. So it was pretty quick.
yeah, very quick. Very quick. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm just going to go down here because I think it is the the first responders is pretty much what we're looking at now. And we're going to listen to the audio of them in the house for what we have. So, Sergeant, yeah, 104, Sergeant Dahlstrom arrives, and they're kind of there. They're all there. Tara Becker is also there. Officer John Broughton arrived third, and then fourth is Keeler, I believe, or actually no, yeah. So you can read all that. Yeah, Keeler arrived fourth, and once they got the dog out of the house, then they cleared that house. So we're going to listen to some of the audio um, of the police entering the house and clearing that scene for the very first time here.
45S41, I'm in the area of the suspicious vehicle, territorial drive.
10-4.
10-4, go ahead.
4933 Sam 14 for suspicion. 1055 Ramsdale Drive. Cop reporting suspicious behavior next door. Went over to the home to the right of the RP. Sees dead bodies inside the house. Dog inside. Sees a gun in the house on the floor.
933, copy. Sam 14, copy.
4933 additional.
Go ahead.
According to the RP, residents have been out of town since before Christmas. Now there are Christmas presents out front, a dog inside, and what looks like possibly bodies inside, a gun laying on the floor inside.
Copy.
Want me to start medics?
You can start them. I'll be en route in about 1 minute.
Receive. Wait, Anthony, you can put me on that call. Just 10 minutes, and I'll have comments later. Work.
Sam 14, just have medic stage.
Yep. Of the residents where the bodies are is 1051. 1051.
Sam 14, I'm out.
10-4. 1305.
49, Sam 14.
49 Sam 14.
Stand by, man.
10. 4920, I'm out.
934, send me the Ramsdale. 49 Sam 14.
49 Sam 14.
There's several obviously deceased bodies in the front. Why don't you give us 1033? Wait for 34 to get here and we'll make entry.
1033 traffic for 4900 squad. All others go to TAC 10. 1033, 4900, 1307.
1034 still on it.
Separation.
49 Sam 14.
49 Sam 14.
Do you have our CSO come with his catch pole as well? The very angry dog inside.
10-4, 49 Charlie, 1 copy, I'll clear you.
4933, rear slider is unlocked, slightly ajar.
Copy, rear slider, unlocked, slightly ajar.
Charlie, 1 copy. 33 F2.
33 F2.
Okay, just let Apple Valley know if they get busy with pending calls, we can help out.
10-4.
Copy. 4934, 76.
10-4.
3517, I copied, I'll take care of it.
10-4, thank you. 49 Sam 14.
We're gonna make entry as soon as CSO can get here and near this dog.
10-4. 3311 for 3 vehicle, 1050, display and pilot. 11, I copy. And they're pulling into the gas station. 10-4. 1350.
34 to C1 on the main. Go for C1. Winter 20. Right around the corner. Alright, when you get here, bring your pole out back. Copy. 4934.
4934.
Be making entry into the house.
I'll be making entry. 10-4.
49 14.
49 Sam 14.
First floor search complete. 3 obviously dead. We're in the basement.
10-4. First floor search, now in the basement.
4934.
4934.
We're code 4. Let's just keep the channel for a little bit.
10-4, code 4, keeping the channel. 4934.
Go ahead.
Can Alina clear, or do you want him in?
Sorry, Alina can clear.
10-4, Alina clearing.
49 Sam 14.
49 Sam 14.
Page out all investigators and go to our PD. I'll be in contact with 901 here shortly.
10-4, page out all investigators.
34. We don't need to block off the street. Just put your squad there. 45 1. I'll be in the area. I go here in PDM.
10-4, 1338.
101, I'm also in the area.
10-4.
49 Sam 14.
49 Sam 14.
We get BCA call. Have them call the number on my login screen, please.
All right, and that is that is all of them going through the house, walking through, and that was the very first video. What you just saw is is a copy of the very first video that I made on this case. That is on my backup channel. This channel that we're on right now was originally my backup channel for this case, and you can see there's a lot of photos in there that have nothing to do with this. I just grabbed whatever I possibly could. So those are actually the earliest photos that I had at that time. Somebody had posted that audio, and we wanted to make sure that people have access to it. So it's hard to find. I have only been able to find it maybe one other place, and that's really it. So it's just wanted to make sure everybody had access to that. Any thoughts on that walkthrough there?
Well, what I like about the photos that you have on there is that it really shows the size of the house, and it was actually kind of small, and you just get a better feel for how they must have had to manipulate the scene, walk around it, try to get away, and they didn't really have much room actually to do that. So I'm glad you had those photos in there.
Sophia, any thoughts on that?
It made me sad just seeing like their furniture that wasn't thrown out, that was still there, but all their personal belongings taken away. It just made me sad.
Yeah, and that the thing for me is one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to hear the dog. What type of state is that dog in? You're both dog owners, whether previous or past dog owners. So, um, how does the dog sound in that audio there?
Well, I couldn't hear the
Yeah.
because it didn't show up on where we're recordings, and I don't have it on the laptop, so I only saw the pictures. But what I did notice is looking at that photo of little Paleo as Dan Jr. is squatting down, just the look in his eyes. He looks so lost and so scared,
Mm,
and it's awful. That poor dog.
yeah, yeah. It looked like the dog was kind of stressed out, and very very loud. I thought too. So, and they're right by the back door when all of that is happening. The door is open somewhat, so maybe that's why. Um, but yeah, it's just very rapid barking. And from what the police said is that the dog was pretty much trying to protect the bodies. That's what it kind of looked like. That was the interpretation that I kind of took away from it, that it was kind of guarding those bodies. And they used treats to get the dog out, and they got the dog out, and then you hear them go in. They clear the whole first floor. Then they clear the basement second, and then they do what they need to. And so, I mean, the first responders, I think, did exactly what you should do. They reported everything correctly, and I don't have any issues with anything that they've done up until this point here. And then they're basically gone after that. They're not really involved in the quote unquote investigation. That's when the detectives take over, and yeah, and then it goes from there pretty much. What do you think? Should I play this last third video here? The thing
Yes.
about this one, or did you want to talk a little bit first? There's no audio for this one. It's a 13-minute video, so I don't know if we should do some commentating over it or if I should just play it. What do you think?
Oh, it is 13 minutes long. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if something strikes you, we could say something since we wouldn't be talking over anybody.
Yeah.
What video is this again?
This is the 13-minute BCA, or 10-minute, I think, BCA crime scene video where they actually walk through later. So this is after, this must have been the second time that they walk through it, I think. If this is the BCA where they walk in there and they're filming it. So that would be Joe Cooksley and all of those cats in there. So I can go ahead and play that one here. And this is where we got it from, was from Tony Floyd's website.
Okay, and hopefully we'll be able to hear it now on this end because I couldn't hear anything. Oh, wait, never mind. You
Yeah,
just said the volume. Oh my God.
Minnesota BCA. So I'm assuming this is real, right? This looks kind of interesting here. I don't know. We're assuming it's real. We don't have confirmation. This is real. It looks real to me, but um, I have no reason to doubt that at all. So it's about 15 minutes, they say, or less. They've never said it wasn't real. There's no affidavits on that for sure. But
Okay, it does look legitimate.
yeah, looks good. You can see officers in the background there. The driveway, how much snow there is. So
The no snow.
yeah, the no snow. This gives you a pretty good idea. That's how the police, or that's how Collins stacked them up. That's not how the presents were found on that day.
Okay.
That's
And again,
important.
remember, I'm looking at it on YouTube, so there's the delay. So you're seeing stuff ahead of what I'm seeing because it's not coming up on where we're at.
It's not coming up on free conference call,
No.
is what you're
Uh-uh.
saying. Oh, okay.
Correct.
I'm gonna start that over then. Um, because I want you all to see this. So I need to do a screen share. Now y'all should be able to see this.
Yes. Now I see it.
Okay. All right. And let me see. I'll probably move that out of the way. Okay. So this is where we got it. This is the first time that I've seen it, heard about it, or anything like that. And there's also photos. So Tony did a big file dump here, and there it is. All official. I don't know where he got this, how he got this, why he got this, why we didn't get it. If this is part of some public records or something, how come we don't have this? How come you have it and I don't? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and especially since we've asked for all this stuff numerous times.
Right.
And, then to have someone ask once and then it's just plopped right in their lap.
Yeah, I wonder how long Tony's had this for.
That's a good question.
There's the long driveway. There's the presents stacked up after Colin found them. He said they were scattered, so he stacked them up there, right on the front door. That brown bag has the $14,000 check in it.
I
Very
find it
important.
interesting that they would have been scattered, and yet the wrapping paper wasn't ripped, it wasn't wet, it wasn't anything, but yet scattered, and that's just odd.
Yeah, and it's all snow, so it's not like it's hit. It's not like there's a tint over it or anything where the
Right.
front door is. But lots of footprints. No idea. I can't tell whose they are. That little windmill kind of trips me out sometimes too, the way that it moves. There's the front. There's the side. And it's hard to tell exactly what day or what time this was all kind of taken to, and you see where those tracks are going.
Yeah, because there
Almost.
are a lot of prints there, so they obviously made several trips out to that backyard.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of prints there. Somehow there's some animal tracks are in the backyard somewhere here too, from what the police reports say. So there's the
And
grill.
here they've closed the door, it's
They
not
closed the door.
ajar.
That's right.
So, and then you see all those prints on the deck.
Yeah. So they really don't know when they say 1/4 inch. There's really no, unless they took a photo before they went in the house. Well, I think they did. I think they did take some photos before they went in the house because you can. There's a couple photos of the rear slider. You can see that dog there too. And this is way. This is open too much. It was not open that much.
Right.
Oh, there's fireplace back there.
And notice the boxes for the tree and everything, like they're taking stuff down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which would line up even right here when you see here on this counter. There's stockings. They're taking them down.
They're taking it down and putting
Taking
things
them down.
away. So that tells me that Christmas had already passed.
Yeah.
And that they were interrupted.
Yes, and it makes sense because the teapot looks brand new, like it was probably a gift for Christmas. Right there on the table. It's a cute little teapot.
Yeah. Strange. Strangest thing about this, one of the strangest things is that I had asked Will about this last night about the casings. Would there be blood on any of the casings at
Only if
any
they
point?
rolled through it.
Like that casing that we just saw, like there's blood spatter all over, but then the casing, is there no blood on any of the casings as far as I know, but looking at where the casings were all found in the living room, how close they all were, and what the damage done to these bodies and the blood going from the bodies to the wall, I would think there May have been, but apparently not. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on where it's coming, how it's ejected, and where it lands, and if it rolls through any fresh blood.
Hmm. Yeah, he talked about that last night. How the gun, when the bullets eject, when the casings eject, they eject to the right of the
Uh-huh.
gun, which is a big
Yeah,
point
on David's gun,
on
yes.
David's gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should help them at least see where people were standing and weren't standing. It's kind of weird where some of the casings are found, though.
Right. I agree with you, because where they are it doesn't make sense, doesn't match up with the wounds, and it doesn't match up with the blood spatter. If you figure out where, you can pretty much like guesstimate where the shooter must have been to have that casing land where it did, and it just doesn't match up.
Two towels in the room, and look at all this. Yeah. So this is how everything is found, and this is before they start moving things around, right?
Well, I don't know. I thought we had seen in one of the earlier photos where, and you could see the bed through the reflection on the mirror, and the bed was actually made. So it looks like they were already in, but don't quote me because it's been a while since I've looked at those photos. But to me, when I look at this, they've already started going through because they just go through everything and pull everything out and nothing gets put back. So it looks like it's a big mess, but it wasn't caused by David and Camille. It was caused by the officers looking for stuff like they're supposed to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think all that happens later. That's my view. Is that what we're seeing here is the recording of the first actual walkthrough? It could be the second one, but I because the bodies are still down there and everything, and a lot of photos they came back and they took when the bodies were gone, and um, I don't think the bed was made. I think they moved all the blankets off of the bed.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the photos because at first I was like, man, this house is so messy. And then when I looked at some other photos, I go, oh, okay. But again, I could just be remembering it completely all backward. Well, she had a lot of toys, didn't she, and books,
Sure did.
Hmm.
and all those family pictures.
And that's them. That's the bodies right there. And the gun apparently in that area.
And that little glob of hair, I think I mentioned this before. I was talking to, I don't know if they call them hairstylist, hairdresser, beautician. I forget. They are always changing their names, but um, and they said that to them, they go, "Wow, that clump of hair is just really weird." So it reminded them of like saying somebody had a bunch of hair in their hairbrush, so they just pulled it all out and then dropped it on the floor.
Hmm. That's a lot of hair.
Yeah, which is what you'd find in a hairbrush, unfortunately for most women.
Wow.
Mm.
This is all the basement down here. There's some poop.
Yeah, not a lot.
Not a lot. There's the washer and dryer, which I always wanted to know if there was anything in there. You can see there is something in that dryer, like
Yeah.
at
There's
least
his
one or two
kennel.
towels. There's the kennel. Yeah, that's a travel one, right? Yeah.
Well, they were kenneling him in the beginning, and then they moved to the crate.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Lots of water too. He's prepped. Wonder what's in all those boxes right there.
And even in his preps, he was smart. He didn't overdo it because in a real SHTF scenario, even if you quote unquote bug in, there's only so much in a certain amount of time you would be able to stay within your house. So he didn't go overboard. Yeah, they had water, they had some extra food, but not like you see on some people.
Hmm.
It just tells me how organized he was in almost so much of his life.
So that was by Special Agent Bill O'Donnell. There is the alleged photo of where of the gun right there, and you can see that gun. So still waiting for confirmation, as far as I know, make sure that that is a real photo, and the medical examiner photos that are here. Um, it's still kind of baffling to me who gets what, why, and everything.
Yeah.
But
And what baffles me is we're looking at, the clothes, the shirts and stuff, and the amount of blood on those shirts. They're covered. It's soaked. So where's the blood in the house? That's a lot of active bleeding, and it won't just stop at the clothes, you know?
yeah,
But yet her sweater isn't as covered as her shirt. So it's just weird. So
yeah, I'm
there you
sure
see
it's
blood going all the way down her pants, but it's not on the floor.
not on the floor. Interesting. I mean, where the hands are, right? We should see a lot of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
This tattoo, I'm not sure. I'm assuming that's Kamel's, but I don't know. It looks like a knee or something. I can never figure out what body part that is. That looks like maybe a back or something. I don't know what these things mean. These are symbols of some sort. Lots of blood there. But if he was only bleeding from one arm and the head, where's all this blood coming from here?
One gunshot wound to the head, and it would do no, and it's nowhere else, just down his clothes. Oh.
It's weird. He would have to be standing up if something happened, I
Or
would think.
sitting,
Or
yeah,
sitting. That's another one of his shirts. I mean, that one is just soaked in blood.
yep,
Completely soaked. And it's weird where it is and where it isn't. Almost like they were leaning to the side, maybe. Or
yeah.
something. The skin is kind of weird over the tattoos as well. I always thought that was kind of odd. Is that just the decomp?
Yes, that's where it's starting to slough. Yeah.
Based on that, does that help show how long they were there for, too?
Well, it's still showing early to moderate decomp, so this really gives you a good idea that they really had not been there for very long because you still see, that's you can read it. You see exactly what it's saying.
Yeah, it just looks like the
But
skin is peeling
yeah,
off.
but the thing is, I don't know if it had to probably have been Tony, but somebody messed with the tone on these. The coloration is completely off on these photos. So Tony must have run him through a filter or something. I
Interesting.
would have liked to have seen the original untouched photos.
What would be the purpose of doing that, of running it through a
Yeah.
filter?
I have no idea, but I will guarantee it was not. I would assume that it was not done by the medical examiner's office. It wouldn't make sense for them to do that because it interferes with what you're looking at.
And he doesn't really say where he got these from, does he?
He's never told me.
Yeah. Boy, are these telling.
No, those are supposedly tied to David. He said that he tried to get the bone fragments that were in the paper bag for Kamel, and he was denied. Well, not actually get them, but the photos of them,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and they denied him on that.
Interesting. Tough to watch, I would think.
Very, very hard.
Yeah, so there it is. That's pretty much what we have, you know. It's nice that we have that. How helpful is it? What we just saw, listened to for your investigation for both of you? How helpful have these three videos, the content of these three videos that we just viewed, how helpful has it been?
I know for me, especially the photos of the clothes,
Hmm.
um, it it was just it really solidified a lot of what I thought had happened and what you read and what you see and how it doesn't correlate with the narrative. So I thought it was extremely helpful.
Hmm. And you felt the same, Sophia?
Yes, the the photos from the Emmy were helpful, and I feel that I have learned more about the case because of them.
Mhm.
The walkthrough, I mean, we're seeing different angles of the house, so that was helpful. But there was a lot of stuff that was just kind of blanked out for the living room. So, but the photos have been very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, the walkthrough I think really helped me. As long as it is the first one, the first walkthrough that they're actually doing, that is extremely helpful. So I would hope that it is. We can clearly see though, things have already been moved. Obviously, the gun should have been moved by that point. I would assume, right? It should be on the kitchen on the counter on the table next to the Christmas tree. I don't remember seeing it there though, so I didn't really pay too much attention to that. But that would be curious to see because I would assume that would be one of the first things they would want to do is to clear that gun. But I'm not really sure exactly when the gun was cleared. Was it after this video? At some point during the video, during the photos that we see, at some point it had to have been cleared, but it's not clear exactly to me when.
Yeah, and they don't really mention it. So should we go through the timeline
Yeah, let's do that.
we have put together?
So let me share. Oh, you both can still see my screen, right? So,
Yes.
okay, you're good. Okay, so here it is, right here. The day of discovery. Like we said, 12:56 p.m. Judy calls 911. 12:59, Apple Valley police officers are dispatched. 1:04 p.m. AVPD patrol arrives at the house. Officer John Broughton, Detective Dahlstrom, and Officer Keeler enter and clear the residence. Officer Broughton discovers the rear slider cracked open. CSO Booth he coaxes Paleo out with treats and a catch pole. Sergeant Dahlstrom posts officers to secure the crime scene. CSO Booth starts the crime scene log, which is a very important too. I wanted to actually bring that one up. I always forget what page that's on. Call to dispatch for detectives and the BCA and Captain John Burmel. All of this is happening between what 104 up until about 2 p.m. Right?
Hmm.
Officer Nelson took digital photos of the residents in the mailbox. Officer Nelson speaks with Tuppy, the neighbor, and Colin. Officer Nelson took a photo of Tuppy's shoes that she was wearing. So you have at least those three cops. They didn't touch that gun is what it looks like yet. Right? The gun is still there. Nobody's touched. They see three dead bodies. No reason. They cleared the house. No reason to touch that gun. Pretty much, which I think is, if that's true, I think that's really a good thing. It's very important to see exactly where the gun is found or
Right.
placed.
They should not have touched it, but we have no idea whether they did or not. We have just no clue. Nothing, it doesn't state. We have no photos to prove they did or didn't.
Mm-hmm. Then you have another note here, Sophia. Officer Becker makes side note patrol 4 films crime scene until BCA arrives approximately. So she's Officer Tara Becker is filming first, filming outside, inside, at least
I
outside, I
think
think. Right?
her patrol car, the camera that was on the dash, was filming the whole
Oh, right,
time.
right. Oh, I see, I see.
And we've tried to get that also and have been denied numerous times.
Yeah, somehow all this
Although
gets out there.
I really don't see it as important, so for me at least.
I think the most important thing that it shows is like what we requested and what is now publicly out there. You know, I think that's what kind of bothers me and still keeps me wondering, like why, if okay, if we asked for the photo or the video from the car, from the police car, and here we have the BCA video of them walking through the whole house, right? It's just kind of weird. So we can't have that. We can't have the video that would just show her car parked facing David's house, pretty much, right? In the driveway, but not even in the driveway because there was no car in the driveway at that point. So yeah, that's weird. That's pretty weird. Let's see. 2 p.m. Detective Gummert receives a call from Sergeant Dahlstrom. Then at 3 p.m., Officer Gummert arrives at the police station to assist other detectives and to get a search warrant signed by a judge. And he arrives at the scene and is briefed by Sergeant Dahlstrom, along with BCA agents who stated their crime scene unit was en route. So all of this here, BCA is not there, and they don't really get there, I think, till about, 6 p.m. or something. So Gummert then assigns Detective Booth and Bone to process the house and the crime scene. Um, so this is the first time; these would be the first detectives that are going to kind of go into the house, is what it looks like here, or they're scheduled to go into the house once the BCA gets there. Detective McKnight, Michael Tietz, and Dakota County Electronics Crime Scene Unit arrive, and Gummert helps them out. So he assists them. So now you have a lot of people here on scene. And that's why that one page would be really good to have of who enters when at what time. Um, Once the VCA finishes processing, Gummert, Tietz, and remaining officers enter the home to assist with the processing. Because you can see all the different people that are in there. And again, nobody sees that bullet hole right above the living room ceiling, where the Christmas tree is. They find blood on the Christmas tree. They know there's blood on the Christmas tree, but they don't look up to see, if there's blood anywhere else, or I don't. It doesn't even. I mean, they look in the walls or anything like that. Once they know that there's a bullet hole shot into the floor, at least by that point, they should look
Yeah, you would
up
think they
in
would
this.
look up. So does it state anywhere that there's blood on the tree in any of the reports? I don't recall reading that.
Yeah, I read one yesterday. I think in the BCA one, the 40-page one,
Okay.
and somewhere in there it does state when they have it's actually pretty good, the 10 pages of them going through it, which was where they actually had the body. So what that's how a photo of the body, the three bodies, got out there from this 40 pager right here. It was not taken out at that point. And there's somewhere in here when they show in the photos of them in the house. Sorry, this is loading a little slow. Um, and it does talk about blood, like either by the Christmas tree or on the Christmas tree, something like that. I remember reading that yesterday and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Chandelier, what was it? He was on, Christmas tree lights were on. Yeah, I thought it was somewhere in here. Slang. Oh, maybe it was just the blood swabbing. Maybe the item 33 mentioned behind the Christmas tree. Maybe that's all it was. Maybe I misread that. Yeah, that's probably all it
Bill, you
was.
bring up a good point. You know, if you're seeing blood on a wall behind a tree, you would think that they're going to look at that tree, but they don't ever mention, they don't ever take swabs of anything from the tree. And there were still ornaments and lights on that tree. And then they don't even look up.
And then that tree was never even removed when the cleaners were done.
Yeah. So if it had biohazard on it, it would have been removed from the house.
So because it wasn't removed, is that a good sign that there was no blood on it?
That's what it tells me.
If there's no
There
blood
was
on
no
it,
blood on the wall behind the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
yeah, and does that line up with where they say David shot himself? If he shot himself where they say that he did, which was next to the Christmas tree, wouldn't there be blood there? Shouldn't there be blood there?
Well, and what it tells me too is that that's a huge void pattern. You can't have blood to the left of it, blood to the right of it, and none of it on it without having something in the way.
It's pretty interesting.
And they know
So,
this. That's the
Yeah,
thing. They know
I
this.
mean, it's part of the crime scene.
Correct.
And they would have looked it over to make sure that there was no biohazard material on it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, so if that Christmas tree was left in that house, there was nothing on it.
okay. So
unless it
what?
was put there after.
Yeah, no, yeah, there you go. That's a good point. Maybe they got rid of the original and someone brought in a new one. I don't know why, but guess it's possible.
Oh, sorry.
Is that your kitty cat?
Yes.
So that's item 33 is the one where
On the
there's
wall.
where
Yes.
there's this blood stain here. The tree is probably somewhere around where this number 01 is here.
Hmm.
So it's pretty close to where the bullet hole in the ceiling is that they find later. Um, all right, that's interesting. Let's see here. So let's see. Okay, then they process Ranya's room. Master bedroom was processed. Nothing really found in there, right? The garage, the basement, the cars, the laundry room. Government instructs the other detectives to remove the guns from the scene. And Detective Tietz finds out victims' names and phone numbers, prepares warrants for providers and electronics. I thought the guns were removed on the 18th, though. Could be wrong on that. I thought they were
I'm just
taken.
following what the Apple Valley Police report said.
Okay. Yeah, I think they show they were taken out the next day, if I remember correctly. So they get the warrants for the phone numbers, for electronics, and they begin process. So around 4:25 p.m. they begin processing. Yeah, I don't think the guns were taken out until
I'm
I
going to
think the
double
next
check
day. Yeah,
right
because I
now.
think they have a whole list of the guns that were taken out.
They
Um,
could have made that list, though, like jotted down, like how uh, the BCA did, like a handwritten list, and then typed it up the next day.
yeah, yeah. I think I remember somewhere in there Gummert saying that they were taken out on the 18th.
Okay, well, I'm double checking.
I do notice though where it says here at 4:25 that BCA begins to process inside the crime scene. Now up above, right around 2 o'clock, who was it then that was, if you go, yeah, a little bit farther, who's right there? I down the next page, the top, yeah. Um, okay, so here it says BCA is still en route, but then yet Booth and Bone process the house and the crime scene. They shouldn't be touching anything.
Hmm.
Correct.
Hmm.
They shouldn't do a darn thing until BCA's there, and they're not there until four or something. And I did see that on the reports too, that they had not arrived until after 4 in the afternoon.
Right.
So
So
you
there's
have
really.
officers in there contaminating the scene.
Hmm. So then that BCA one could be after, like you said, after things are kind of moved
Yeah,
around, even though they really shouldn't be.
right. So we have no idea because they have not given us any of the original photos. We have no clue.
So they began processing at 4:25. They go inside. That's probably when that video happened, right? Around then.
Yeah, because
And
they should
then
do the video first before they do anything else.
yeah, at 12:30, the medical examiner arrives. Jessica Lelinski enters crime scene where the bodies are photographed, and the Emmy arrives on scene. 12:55, Rania was tagged and placed into a body bag. 12:58, David was tagged and placed into a body bag. 1:10 a.m., Komel was tagged and placed into a body bag. 1:15 a.m., the Emmy leaves with the bodies. And 4:25, ABPD wrapped up the crime scene, closed the house up, and Paleo is dropped off at a local shelter. That's a really good bullet points of what happened, at least as far as what we know. It really sums it up pretty nicely, I think.
Yeah. So much better than this report. When you read this report, they write it as if they had found the bullet hole in the ceiling right along with everything. They kind of tied it in there very neatly without stating it was a month later.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how they have several different reports, like these ones here. Like even the first one up here, I think doesn't mention item 53 or 57, so they have to do like three different ones. But yeah,
Yeah.
in this 10 pager, they just kind of lump it all into the same thing. What is the
Yeah, and
date
that's,
on
I
this?
think, is deceptive because, if they're presenting that to a court or whatever, even for their own records, it
Hmm.
is not, a true to time um, accounting of what they did and when they did it and when things were found. You know, they should have written in there, and then a next section, February is when we found this, and then this is what we did with it. But as you're reading it, it sounds like it all happened at the same time.
Right. Yeah, and it's dated 3/11/2015, so they want to make sure for that. But yeah, there's several of these field examinations, and there's one that just goes up to like items, I think 47 or 48. Then there's one that goes up to 40 to 53, and then they have a third one that goes to 57.
Uh-huh.
Pretty interesting stuff there. Um, and then you have here where they talk about who is filming and everything. So they kind of, it's still, I always thought it was Beth Wolf filming, but Special Agent Lance Lehman. But in the video that we watched, it says Special Agent Bill um, Callahan or something like that, whatever his name, Bill O'Donnell. So who was
So it's
filming?
Yeah, so absolutely different. I mean, at least here they had that one little blurb on 218. That's when they found the
Hmm.
ceiling, but yet they don't incorporate that into their main storyline as they're writing out the um,
Oh, I see Bill O'Donnell
summarizing the
here.
crime
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So up here, okay. So he
Oh,
was the
okay, so they
photographer,
listed.
and then
Greg,
yeah,
can you go back to the timeline for a second,
sure.
please? Back to where Officer Teets, or however you pronounce, oh, detective. Mm,
Up more.
when was that time frame that I have? Because
For which part?
for Officer Teets, or however you pronounce his
Yeah, you
name,
mentioned three, what you just went by. Yeah, so right around in the 3 o'clock time frame.
okay, because he leaves the crime scene and then he comes back,
Okay. Yeah,
and
to get the
so
warrants, right?
yeah, he's doing warrants, and when he comes back to the crime scene, it's at 1:52 a.m.,
Hmm.
and that's when he's removing the guns from the house.
Okay, yeah. which would technically be the 18th, I think, right?
Hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, even though it's not like when you say the next day, it's not like they all went home, went to bed, and everything. It's
Oh,
like
good point. Good point.
he took a break, did something, and came back. It was after midnight, and then they took the guns.
Gotcha. Good point. Yeah, I think lots of good stuff there. Yeah, I tried to document in my book here. I try to document as much as I could about what they were doing, what each officer says based on all of their reports. Try to put it in um, a very simplistic way so we could all just kind of go through it and really know, because that was a big thing. Who did what? Who went in? Who went first? Who went second? Who actually went into the house? Who opened up that rear slider? Um, there were photos taken before they took the dog out, so they do have photos of that rear slider. But obviously, the video, why they would leave it open that much is still another weird thing, because that's not how it was open, obviously.
Yeah. Can
Um,
you go back up a little bit more on that and go to the part where it says fresh animal prints in the snow? It was up
yes,
toward the top of that page, I do believe. Um,
yeah, right here, Officer Broughton.
yeah. Entered the backyard and saw fresh animal tracks. Now that you have a cracked backslider, you know there's an animal in the house, and you see fresh tracks, but yet you're not going to say or try to find out if it came from the dog or another animal. That's odd.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty. I mean, when they say animal tracks too, it's like it makes me think dog. I don't know. I don't know if they have any raccoons. You've lived out there, so are there raccoons and things like that in that area?
I mean,
If
I don't know if they have raccoons or not. I mean, I know we do here, but this is not Minnesota.
not in
But
Minnesota,
um,
right?
yeah, I mean, was it? Yeah, it could have been a raccoon. Could it have been? I doubt a squirrel, but
If it's a raccoon, though,
rabbit
they
or
come out at
something.
night, right? Raccoons are more nocturnal, so
Yeah,
they're
they're nocturnal, and
yeah.
but was it rabbit tracks? Was it dog tracks? Was it raccoon? But and they have different paw prints. They are different prints that they could tell quite easily. But just to say they saw fresh animal tracks in the snow and leave it at that, I think is very not good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he put that in there, that he put it
Right.
in the reports, and maybe he doesn't know, so he just, well, they're not human, so they must be animal tracks, you know. They're not like
Yeah.
shapeshifter or anything, as far as we
Yeah.
know, but it's
Or a
something.
cat. Was it a cat?
Yeah, it could have
Yeah.
been neighborhood cats too.
Yeah. But again, it would have been easy to see, and they could have said, apparent cat tracks or possible dog tracks, but they leave it that completely out.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to speculate on it because he doesn't know what type of tracks that they would be, you know. That was my interpretation of it.
Yeah, but a cat and a dog, they look completely different. I mean, they all of those look different from each other. I think even a layperson could look at a rabbit track and a dog track and know the difference. A cat versus a dog, total difference.
Hmm.
Even a raccoon, completely different.
Interesting.
Again, the only reason I know is because at my house when before I moved, every night there's to be a family of raccoons that would come by. Oh, they're obnoxious.
Yeah, we have those here too, and yeah, they're not shy at all. But he opens the door here, so even then it's like he opens it before they even take a snapshot of it too.
Yeah, so
Before,
not good. That again goes against protocol and
right?
standard operating procedure.
Yeah. Now maybe they took a photo of it and then opened it. It doesn't. It's not really clear when did they start taking photos, right? I think they did
Right,
start taking photos obviously before they entered the home and everything. So I don't know. It's a lot of it was kind of, and I didn't want to make up, I didn't want to try to interpret it myself. I really just wanted to write whatever they said here. And it's
right,
nothing that you
right.
can't find in these documents. I just wanted to make it easy for people who just wanted a nice fresh start here. And here's yeah, when he says when he opened up the door, there was an overpowering odor of decay. So even though the Paleo is in the house, he doesn't feel Paleo is that much of a threat to where he can't open up the door. So and even later you'll see Booth, CSO Booth says that he looks scared, that the dog looks scared. So I'm wondering if when Broughton goes up to the rear slider, for him to be able to feel like he can open it safely, the dog, he must have not never saw the dog as a threat or anything like that.
Right. And the only thing I think about, again, it goes back to that photo that you showed of little Paleo in the shelter, the vet's office, or wherever it was taken,
Hmm.
and how traumatized he looks. I mean, and and it would have been so overpowering. And his little nose, dogs' noses are so much more sensitive than ours. So it was absolute abuse, animal abuse, to do that to that animal and leave him in that situation. Whoever did that,
What do you think they should have done in that situation?
well, let taken the dog with them or let it outside. When they were done and they decided to leave, just open the door and let the dog run so it would be barking and neighbors could then hear.
Hmm.
But to leave that poor thing in a house, that's just cruel.
Sure is. So we talked about the lights, that there was just the one light on. In the BCA video, you can kind of see the dining room light too. I don't know if you both saw that or not, but you can kind of see it in there, that it's on. It's a pretty bright light too. I remember one neighbor was saying that they thought that it would come on every so often or something. Um, and then Broughton describes what he's seeing, describes the bodies, and that's what I really wanted to get, right? That's what the video, if there was a video of this, this is what the video should show. It should line up with what these police officers are saying. So yeah, once they get the dog out, they got him out with dog treats. Took about five minutes. Yeah, dog was scared, but appeared to be friendly. I always thought that was very interesting too. Scared and friendly, not vicious or not like angry or anything like that. That's pretty
Yeah.
interesting to me. So yeah, and you're right. It stayed there until what they say, till 1900 hours. So
In his
um,
truck.
in his
Yeah.
truck, yeah, in his truck,
Again, cruel. Hello, it was cold.
yeah. I mean, they have to be used to that, right? They have to be prepped for that and kind of know. I mean, he is part of a crime scene, right?
Well, yeah, and they should have done better with his dog. Um,
No poop as far. I mean, if the dog would the dog have time to poop in this truck, and maybe
yeah,
they
or
could have tested
urinate or
that.
whatever. It was super scared.
Yeah. And then they took it to the kennel, and um, only feed and water the dog, but not to do anything else with it, since it was part of an investigation. So this is where you have Keeler, who is Dahlstrom and Keeler are the two that enter that house, and this is and you hear some of that in that call, um, where they're kind of
So these were
walking
the
through.
first responding officers that walked in to make sure.
Yeah, after they got the dog out, then Dahlstrom and Keeler went to clear
Okay.
that house, and they cleared the garage first, then the main level, ending with the basement. Um, a big question was the basement open? Was the basement closed? Right.
Right.
So
Right.
still kind of think it was open. It would have had to have been open because there's dog poop down there too. So and there's hair.
Yeah, but it would have been amazing information if the door had been closed and there was dog poop downstairs.
That's true. It's very true. They looked at the writing on the wall. They noticed the writing and several bloody footprints on the floor in the area between the kitchen and the living room. Below the wall on the living room floor lays three heavily decomposed bodies, two adults and one child. I know,
And
Catherine, you
here,
had just
yeah,
talked
here
about
they're showing
this.
their narrative. They're not heavily decomposed bodies.
Yeah.
They were even the ME report states early to moderate, so not too long after death. But yet their narrative starts off like they've been there forever.
Right.
So long, they're heavily decomposed. No, they're not. Heavily decomposed bodies don't smell anymore.
The mailbox was full, which is another interesting thing too, I would think. So that was something that I was trying to use to figure out the time of death based on what Officer Becker was saying. Um, and the postmaster just happened to show up at that time too. So you kind of get an idea of when the mail would come every day, basically.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, I take issue with that because there are some days when we miss getting the mail. Okay, not some days. Like, if we just skip it, like Friday, and then we pick it up on a Monday, late afternoon, sometimes our box could be pretty full.
yeah.
It just depends on what was sent out. If it was bills or the end of the month, we have a lot more mail at that time. And it looked like there was also junk mail shoved in there. So, I mean, and
Well,
if we
yeah.
look at the photo,
Hmm.
it really doesn't look like piled all the way to the top.
Yeah, and did they even ask? I mean, they have the mail person right there handing them mail. They didn't even ask, "Hey, has this been full like this for a while?" Didn't ask that question because they don't know if there's another person who had done this. They could easily take a stack of mail from inside the house and go shove it back into the mailbox. You just don't know.
Yeah, and here's one of the other things that really stuck out to me that still kind of bothers me is what Officer Becker does is she takes the mail and puts it into the mailbox. So what you're seeing in the mailbox is also what the postmaster hands him. So you're right, we don't know. All that could have been. We don't know how much mail the postmaster handed Officer Becker when she put it into the mail. Why she put it into the mailbox, I'm not really sure either.
I
So.
mean, why not just take it over? You guys already have the search warrants and everything.
Mhm.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I mean, you're not really supposed to. It's really supposed to go from the postmaster to the mailbox, from my understanding of it. But there was another note found, an interesting note that was in the BCA notes. Lots of good stuff in the BCA notes too. What is it? 485 pages, right? And there's a lot of great notes in there. A lot of great, just little random little things. But this was one that really stuck out to me because they give dates. Anytime they give dates or times, those obviously are going to stick out to us. But it says mail in mailbox December 29th, and then slash front packages 11015. So the 11015, obviously the mail, December 29th. If the mail in the mailbox was just from December 29th, starting at December 29th, I think
That
that's
just
kind of.
blows their narrative right out of the water.
Yeah. Yep.
And then what about this 110? Because that would kind of line up with the 7 day theory, right? That the bodies were only there for 7 days.
Yeah, because there were a couple, in the reports, it states that several of the neighbors said that they didn't even notice packages until the 10th of January.
Hmm.
Judy's really much the only one who stated that they were there before Christmas, but the majority of people said they didn't notice until January 10th.
Yeah, and this shows that the mail was there starting December 29th. So it would seem best case scenario for them. They all died or stopped looking at the mail on December 29th.
Okay, so the mailbox, they have like a telephone book in there.
Hmm.
It's about an inch and a half thick. They have several magazines. Trying to see what. Oh God, bless it! It clicked out. So I mean, we have Greg. It's BCA 4396.
Okay.
And then there's like some type of a white package that's shoved in there, a thick envelope package, probably maybe health insurance. And it's like another booklet in there or a magazine. So, I mean, that looks halfway full.
Yeah, and then again, that includes whatever Tara Becker stuck in there too. So
And honestly, that could be 3 days full,
yeah, now
depending
we're
on how much arrived and when it arrived.
right. I'm curious to know what day December 29th, 2014 was. Was it a Sunday or Saturday, et cetera, et cetera? Maybe that would be interesting to find out. This one you can almost see, maybe if somebody zooms in, they may even be able to find a date on this first one here. But this first one here looks very similar to the one thing that is found in their garbage can, in one of their garbage recycling bins outside. Very similar. There's a Wells
Um,
Fargo thing here too.
Greg, I just looked it up, and December 29th, 2014 was on a Monday.
Okay, so it should have been everything from that Monday. So that means December 28th. No, December 27th would be a Saturday. There's no mail from there, right? I mean, it's just, I mean, I think they would have to really narrow down their timeline starting at December 29th based on this, if they were just to look at the mail, if
And
nothing
is
else. Oh,
that
there it is.
all the mail, or is that the mail that was there when as soon as they opened it up? What I'm meaning is that the mail that's included from that day, or let's see,
This says
December.
115. Yeah,
That's when it was scanned through the post office, though. That's not when it was delivered.
interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because that could have been delivered on the 17th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty interesting stuff there. So those two dates, and it's just, it's very small, very, it's not really mentioned, but the mail in the mailbox was labeled as AV1, AV-1. Um, One thing I did want to go back to was the neighbors, and the reason why I put that first in the book was because I wanted to know, when did the neighbors last see them? When did the neighbors last hear from them? I think that's, very, very relevant. I really wanted to start there so people could kind of get a good understanding of when. And you have a neighbor who is across the street. And here's the other thing about the neighbors that we need to understand. It's not just about when the neighbors last saw them. Did any neighbors hear any gunshots too? Those two things are very important, and they go hand in hand. But the last person that saw David was on Christmas Eve. Um, that neighbor never reported hearing gunshots right across the street from where David was. Um, the Hicksons, she doesn't report hearing, Mrs. Hickson, she doesn't report hearing any gunshots. She notices that there's a candle, there's a light that goes on. Um, Teresa Shepard, who lives behind them, which was out of town. She was out of town until December 23rd, so she would have been there when any gunshots should have gone off. And she lives right behind them. No gunshots. So I know there's, you can focus on who heard gunshots, and I definitely want to get there here. But I mean, if you look at the neighbors that did not hear any gunshots, period, that's pretty odd. Shepard noticed that the door did seem to be kind of open, but she wasn't sure if it was the patio door or that the screen door, right? So that's probably why she didn't call them or anything. But she's right there. I mean, none of these people hear guns. So the Tuppies, who live right on the other side of David, if you're looking at David Crowley's house, the Tuppies live to the right of David's house, and so they hadn't seen the Crowleys in over three weeks, is what they say, and they didn't really know David's wife's name. And Mr. Tuppy conversed with David more than Mrs. Tuppy did. And Mrs. Tuppy is also the one, I believe, who had David's number. So she had his phone number. Colin went over there to go and get his number for some reason, and she called him. So I don't know if David gave her the wrong number, a fake number, or what number that they had. I forget that, but.
Well, and I want to go back just briefly, real quick,
Sure.
about the gunshots, and when people say that they last saw at least one of the Crowley family
Well,
members.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. I promise. We're
Okay.
getting there. It's coming up here. And then you have the father and daughter who also live behind David, and they didn't hear any gunshots, and they said that the house had been dark since Christmas. They hadn't seen the occupants in a long time. So the daughter says, her room was on the back of the house, and that lights at the back of the neighbor's house would shine in her room if they were on. So she said she hadn't seen anybody since the weekend before Christmas school break on the 19th. December 19th is a pretty crucial day too, for several reasons. So it's interesting, that date that she gives there. But this is where we're talking about here, Catherine. This is probably the part here that you were going to, if you want to make a point here before, but this is where we're at, where the two neighbors that heard gunshots.
Exactly. And from what I read in the reports, not one of them heard gunshots after the 19th. It was up until sometime on the 19th. And now with the mail in the mailbox, there's evidence that the family was active, at least somebody was active getting mail up until the 29th. So not only were there not enough gunshots fired, but, because they say they heard 3 rapid fire shots, we know at least 6 were shot. At least 6 rounds were fired. And the timelines don't match up. So they should have just tossed. That should have just been, okay, well, this isn't following what we know. They're saying they heard it somewhere between the 10th and the 19th. We have evidence that they were collecting mail until the 29th. So those could not have been what it hurt them.
Right.
And
yeah.
It could have been backfire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hate to assume that what he's thinking, but do we know if this person knows what actual gunshots sound like?
He says he was certain. So we're not talking about Colin.
Okay.
We're talking about the other neighbor. But he says he heard 3 rapid fire gunshots, and he gives the time. It was sometime, before December 31st, or at least up until December 31st. It would have to have been sometime between Christmas Eve and December 31st. But it's odd that he's the only one that hears that. No one else does, including the other neighbor that heard gunshots.
And it wasn't fireworks?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it wasn't fireworks either, because
he was certain.
People were popping off fireworks too.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and he states that he supposedly hears 3 rapid fire gunshots, but he didn't say where they were coming from.
Yeah.
somewhere outside his house. Maybe it was in front of him. Maybe it was in a whole different direction from the Crowley house. So again, this is not anything that would even should even be considered as part of the case, because you can't back it up. It backs up nothing.
It's like we don't have a date. We have this loose time frame. It says
No
3 rapid
direction.
fire gunshots, but we seriously, I mean, I've heard backfire that sounds very similar to gunshots.
And you were mentioning firecrackers.
Yeah, and firecrackers. So, sorry, this is just, it's crap.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and then we're going to move on to the next person talking about it.
Well, yeah, and I just want to say, Crip Rip made a statement in there. His friend, who is a gunsmith, told him that the caliber of bullet would be very loud if it was fired in a house. And I don't think there's anybody here that really would disagree with that. Um, these houses too. I mean, they're very, very close to
But
each other, and yeah.
yeah, so if they had actually, if David had fired that gun in the house 7 times, was
Well,
it
six
7 times?
times for sure. There was one that was laying on the ground, so we can assume ejected, but one not spent, but six that were.
Okay, 6 to 7 times, just to cover all
Uh,
the bases. And I lived that close to them, and I heard that going on, whether it was over a period of a couple days or not. I would be calling the cops immediately, and not like, huh, that's weird.
When three shots doesn't really line up with anybody except for Kamel, maybe. But even according to what they say, she was only shot twice. So if it's three rapid fire shots, that doesn't line up with what they say about Kamel, with what they say about Rania, or
Well,
with what
they're
they say
wrong
about David.
about what they're saying about her because she has 3 bullets connected to her. That's what the DNA says. So, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just tired.
It's okay. Mr.
Okay.
Olson, go ahead, Sophia, if you got a
No,
point.
no, no. Okay, we're moving on.
Mr. Olson cannot remember exactly where they came from, but he was certain that they were gunshots. Olson told Detective Bone that he and his family were home between 1 p.m. on Christmas Eve and 1 p.m. on Christmas Day. However, Mr. Olson was unsure if he heard the gunshots on either of those days. So he doesn't really know. So he makes it very
yeah.
clear that he does not know when these three rapid fire shots happened. But we can also say that it's, I mean, it would make the only one that would make sense would be tied to Kamel being shot 3 times. That wouldn't account for David. That wouldn't account for Rania. That wouldn't account for the round that goes into the floor. Um, so
But it really goes into fit though. Was it possibly firecrackers? Because on Christmas Eve in our neighborhood, people light off firecrackers on all major holidays, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, I mean, seriously, here between Christmas and the day after New Year's, they were lighting off firecrackers every day and night.
Yeah, but those aren't three rapid fire shots though. You're gonna hear they're either
No,
gonna
Those
but
go
little
on,
ones,
people get like those little blackjack things and
yeah.
out.
but I mean that would say okay, they fired three
Okay,
firecrackers and
okay,
that's it.
okay. We're moving on.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it wasn't firecrackers. They can't prove it was a gunshot. They has no idea where it's coming from. Firecrackers, they come on a string, and who knows if some were a dud. There are just so many things that you could tear holes that this, and we don't know for sure if they use this as part of their coming to their conclusions. We can assume, but it would be torn apart in a court of law.
And he sat there and never called the cops.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
he was so sure that they were freaking gunshots, why didn't he call the cops?
yeah, that's it. That's the best
He
point
could
right
have
there.
saved Ronnie's life. He could have stopped David from doing anything else if David is guilty. But he never called the cops, so obviously he wasn't that sure it was gunshots.
He wasn't sure where they were coming from. He wasn't sure of the day. He wasn't sure of the time.
Right.
The only thing he says that he's sure of is 3 rapid fire gunshots. That's what he's saying.
Yep.
Um, Now, Colin and Judy live one house west of David, and Colin reportedly heard gunshots sometime between December 2nd and December 19th. Now, Mr. Prochnow was unable to narrow down the date. Mr. Prochnow was able to narrow down the date to December 9th or December 10th, sometime between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. None of that
Is
coincides with any. It's not really relevant,
Not
right?
yeah,
it's not relevant to
totally
this video.
irrelevant.
Even on the 19th, even if it was the 19th,
Yep.
completely not relevant
Completely
at all.
Sorry.
Of course, he didn't contact, so he doesn't know the day. He doesn't know the time either. Same like the other neighbor. And trying to see if in here if he says how many gunshots. He did not contact law enforcement, but said he checked out his front door, didn't see anything, checked out the back of his residence, and thought it was fireworks.
There
So
you go.
that's pretty much all that he really says
There
about
go
it.
fireworks right there. So I would venture the other one with fireworks as well. Of
Because
course,
if
that's
they're sure
something.
that it was gunshots, then the death of the rest of the family is on their shoulders because they decided not to call the cops.
Well, but they don't know. It could be they didn't know which neighbor, so they didn't know where it came from. So it could have just
If
been
I heard
somebody firing
gunshots in my
gunshots.
neighborhood, I would be calling the cops. I don't care which house. I would and I would be out there saying, "Hey, I heard actual gunshots. You need to be knocking on these doors to find out if everybody's okay."
But
Because
which
somebody
which
could be lying there needing help.
yeah, but which door do you go to? Because
I don't
they
know.
don't know
That's
where.
why
I
I'm
mean, they
saying
can't
I'm
just
not
go
calling
around
the
to
cops.
every. They can't go to every neighbor's house and knock on the door and see if there's gunshots. That's what I would say.
I'm just saying if they're so adamant about hearing the gunshots, they should have called the cops.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Iconic Meerkat states that a 40 caliber is equal to 159 decibels. He looked it up. That's
Ooh,
pretty loud.
yeah, that's really.
Wow.
And if you have 6 of those going off, you're going to know it.
Your ears are going to be ringing.
Yep.
And their house is wood. That's just going to amplify it any ever. Sorry, I can't talk. That's
No,
just
you're right because
why.
they didn't really have carpet. You're making a really good point. There's no carpet, so the sound would reverberate and bounce off the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to see if there's anything else relevant to that day here.
Right here, another item discovered on the front stoop was a $14,000 check for David given by his father. The existence of this check was not widely known to the public at first. Early May reports led me to believe David and Kamel were struggling financially. This, I think, is a gem because that was part of the narrative. They must have done this because they were depressed. They didn't have money. Kamel was trying to pay for everything. David was being a big slouch, and they just didn't. They were so poor, and okay, that led him to despair. So he shoots his family. A $14,000 check sitting on the doorstep, and he had to have known it was coming. I
Well, look
mean,
at the next.
that's not destitute.
Yeah, look at the next paragraph because he just confirms that whole narrative.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. See, though through our investigation, there have been indications that the couple may have had financial troubles. Really? 14. Somebody give me $14,000. I don't have financial troubles. I'm going to be okay.
What type of troubles would you have? You have 14. That's amazing.
I could probably
Unless you
pay
owe
for
a
stuff that I
bookie.
keep breaking in my house. And I could get a new laptop. Yeah, look at this. Now he's really, oh, thank you for pointing this out, Sophia.
Yes.
Based on my training and experience, Detective Bone continued, money and debt can be a contributing factor for motive in cases of homicide. Due to the circumstances of the couple's deaths, I am requesting a search warrant for each of the banks and a AAA credit screening to obtain records of all known accounts. And come to find out, they had money. They weren't hurting. So did they go back and correct his little narrative there? Nope.
They just continued with it.
No, he does. He does. You read on.
No, I'm talking about in the narrative that they
Oh,
put out to
I'm
the
sorry.
public.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. No, you're right. No, because they didn't want us to know about the $14,000 check
No.
or about David's deal that he was working on. So yeah, they didn't. Yeah, but I'm glad that the cops followed up on it, that they actually looked into it, and but even then, what he's saying here is kind of like, well, they had money in the bank, but they were decreasing their savings and
Yeah, so
their.
he's trying to justify his
He's still
stance.
trying. You're
They had
right.
money, but it's decreasing. Whose bank account doesn't decrease as they spend it?
Well,
I'm like,
And
once
it's Christmas time, too.
yes.
that's true.
Hello.
Yeah, that's true.
You have
Yeah.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, and yeah, of course you're going to have money coming out.
Oh, if David would have gotten that $14,000 check, that wouldn't have been
It would
the
have been
case.
fine. I
Yeah.
mean, they were fine to begin with, but they would have been really okay.
Yeah, yeah. And that was one of those things where the check was there. It just hadn't been deposited yet. That's it. That's the only thing. In the financial records, in their financial records, I mean, one thing I don't know. I think the data that we got didn't go back that far, but I was always wondering, this was a $14,000 check that David's dad gave them every year for tax write-offs. So I know what he did at 14,000 was because of tax. There's some tax write-off incentives there, but
Exactly.
I just wondered if it was every year. Go ahead.
And generally people who have money like that, that's exactly what they do. I'm the last guy that I was dating before he died. Yeah, he was very wealthy, and he would do the same thing with his relatives and with his children. He always gave the maximum at the end of the year. It's just what they do, like you said, because it's a tax write-off. Plus, you get to give money to your family that can't be taxed because if
Right.
you stay under a certain amount, it's not taxable. It's just a gift. So
Right.
obviously, David's dad was, very generous with his children.
Yeah. Seems like it. That's pretty generous.
I know. I wish I had a dad to give me 14,000.
That would be sweet, right?
I know. I need that new laptop, Dad.
To me, it still seems like, if Colin had not looked at the presents on that day, had not seen the barking dog, he may never have discovered those bodies on January 17th, 2015.
That's true.
Who knows how long they would have been there after that. So,
So yeah, when you think about it, Colin actually did this case a huge favor because if they had waited any longer, the bodies really would have been past the point of, figuring anything out. And then we wouldn't, right now as it stands, we can really put a timeline and understand how long they actually had been there. And
mhm,
it's all thanks to Colin.
that's right.
Yeah.
Now, he does say that he first thought that they were dummies, and of course that sparked a lot of speculation about were they really bodies. Even with me too. This is why. Well, at that point, I really felt like I needed to see a photo of the actual bodies. Once I saw it, I felt completely different. But because he's saying that he thought that they were dummies, I thought that was kind of strange, and Colin doesn't mention this in his 911 call, but somehow Tara Becker brings it up that Colin thought, he first thought that they were dummies or some type of props that were left in the residence to appear as though they were home when they weren't. And I hate to laugh at that, but that just does not make any sense on any
No, it
level.
doesn't. Oh, let's put some props on the floor that look like dead people, and we just want to fool everybody to let them know we're home.
I mean, I could see if like they were all on the couch, sitting on the couch, that would okay, maybe they're all sitting there on the couch with,
Oh
the
yeah, that's right.
gunshot
I
to the head or
forgot.
something.
Paleo then drugged them off the couch and positioned them on the floor like that. Okay, sorry, I forgot.
It's that was an odd one to me.
That's bizarre.
But I mean, I just remember when that came up in the group, and it was like, man, this is really going to spark the speculation that we really don't need with this case. But you got to throw your hands up. It's like, well, he said it. I can't like take it back. I can't. I don't know how to argue this. I don't know how to stand up for Colin to how to, to help you guys understand. No, all that he can say is that at some point he changed his mind. But this is why it would be good to get the actual recordings of what Colin tells Tara Becker for this particular reason here. Why does Tara Becker in her report, why does she write that Colin first thought that he thought that they were dummies or some type of props that were, is she coaxing him to think that, or is he saying, it just doesn't seem, everything that we've seen from his 911 call, there's not a lot of speculation there. This is the one time that he really speculates.
Well, and you're right. You bring up a good point. How this is worded, it doesn't sound like how he talks at all.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking maybe it was a coping mechanism, just like doesn't want to believe that his neighbors are dead. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I agree with him in the part where he felt like he thought they were dummies. Yes, and that's 100% true. The shock value and what your system does, but then the part where it goes on to say that to appear as though they were home but they weren't. That's
Yeah.
that's the part I'm
Yeah.
kind of referring to. That doesn't sound like how he talks in any of his interviews, and not even on the phone or even in the transcript.
Yeah, that was a little odd. How they would, I mean, obviously anyone who's seen where or just know where the bodies are. Like I said, if they're on a couch, but I mean, they're not all going to be laying down like that. It's just weird. Anyways, it's just weird. Someone sees, they think that they're
And right here
dummies,
in the
and
next part, like Sophia was pointing out, Colin just says, you don't expect to see headless bodies. So he was in shock.
right. Yeah, and that's what Judy told me during our debate on March 24th, 2017, that he saw what he wanted to be mannequins, and she also thought that they were at some point too, but I didn't get that from her call. From her call, she had pretty much the case solved. The way that I took it. So I don't know. I don't know how a headless body means that they're a mannequin. I don't know. It's I have just so many issues with that. And then she also talks about what she saw, and she saw David lying on the floor. I thought it was a mannequin at first too. Then I realized that it wasn't. I couldn't figure it out. So at some point during when she's figuring out that it's not a mannequin, she's able to think that this is a murder or a suicide, and that the dog must have eaten these bodies.
Yeah,
So
she
it's
really puts out the entire narrative.
yeah, while trying to back up what Colin is kind of thinking or saying too. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
So
and I want to throw in here, Iconic also stated that the 40 caliber suppressed would still be 126 decibels. And when I looked that up to see how loud 126 decibels are, it says that's above the level, and it's aircraft takeoff, trains, and quite loud concerts would fall to the 110 plus decibel level. 126 decibels. 125 is where sound begins to get painful. So those gunshots still would be very loud if it was suppressed.
hmm. Hmm.
Thank you, Iconic, for looking
Okay.
that up. I appreciate it.
It was really when she said that I think there's been a murder or suicide next door, that a lot of bells kind of went off. Like, it's just really, really odd. And I know some people have tried to make excuses for it. I think most people just think that that's just completely weird, completely
Yeah.
wacko. And years later, when I asked Judy why she would use those words, murder or suicide, during the 911 call, the response was not what I expected. I mean, I was like almost on the floor laughing at her answer. She says, "I'm not one of you. I'm not suspicious if when someone dies, I don't automatically assume that they were murdered." Yet that's exactly what she did.
Exactly.
It's exactly
And then
what
she
she
goes on to say, I meant murdered as in Kamel and the baby. Make up
Right.
your
That's
mind.
still assuming that somebody was murdered. You're
I
still
know.
assuming that Kamel and the two people were murdered, and then you assume that the second one committed suicide. It's just really, really weird.
Yeah, that is so weird. And when she said that, and trying to backtrack and backstep her comments,
Mhm.
I went and I listened because on YouTube you can find a whole lot of 911 calls. And I went and listened to, I don't know, I mean, I'm talking in excess of 50 of those videos and listening to over call after call after call. And not one person, when they came upon a gunshot victim, did they say, I think they were murdered or it was
It's,
suicide?
it's so
Not
odd.
one.
It's so odd. It's so odd. I just can't get over that comment there. Like, I'm not one of you, but pretty much you are. Like, no, you're definitely not one of us because we would never do this. We would never call 911 and assume anything ridiculous like that. Just report whatever you see. That's pretty much it. So, I mean, none of this makes sense. The dummies, she assumed they were dummies. She assumed there was a murder, there was a suicide. Then it was just she assumed Kamel and Rania were murdered, and because the gun was next to where David was, and it must be. It's just like it's just a complete. It's just crazy. Lots of staging, and I mean, geez, if somebody was going to stage the crime scene, I mean, you stage it for a person like that who's going to pretty much assume all of these things for you. They're going to do all of your dirty work for you, basically, in one 911 call within a couple minutes. Within a couple minutes, that's it. I mean, geez, they've laid out the whole story that you want them to get, doing all the work for you. So very odd stuff. Um, so let me see if there's anything else here relevant for that. I mean, that was the other thing. It was like I was trying to figure out when Colin and Judy are both calling. How close are they? How far are they? Because it sounds like Colin goes over to where Tuppy is, and he's talking to her. So I thought that Colin was at Tuppy's house when he called uh, the 911. But if Judy is on the phone, she tells him, "I'm calling 911." He must be outside. They must be very, very close
Yeah,
because
within talking distance.
within
I
talking
could have sworn I
distance.
heard this audio. We were talking about this earlier, and she's outside, because the operator is telling him, Colin, well, we're on the phone with your wife right now, and somehow they say something to Judy, and Judy's like, I'm on the phone with 911, and then he's like, oh, okay, and he hangs up,
Well,
which
he
is
doesn't. No,
weird because
he
he
doesn't
should
hang up
know.
until they tell him that they're talking with Judy. That's when
Right.
he hangs up. So interesting. And Tuppy thought that they had possibly gone to Texas. So I mean, that's another thing because that's where Kamel's family is in Texas. They thought they went there and just hadn't come back yet. So um, and that was odd because she had the landline. So she had, or I'm sorry, she had David's cell phone. From her landline. She called. From what the police reports say, she called David's number, and that's the 256-616-0461. Which was that David's newer number or was that his
I
old?
was just going to ask you that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I usually would have that right here in front of me. Actually, I do because I have.
Uh,
I purposely did that right here for those reasons. So
her
David's new.
phone number never showed up. There's no calls to either of David's phones that day.
Yeah, well, that would be David's old number. So she had his old phone number.
To his new phone. It never showed up.
Yeah. It's not on the phone records.
Yeah, she says it went straight to voicemail and did not leave a message.
But if she had called, like Sophia was saying, it would have been on the phone records.
Mm-hmm.
If it was forwarding, right? If the old number
Yes.
was still forwarding to the new number.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't forwarded,
Oh, I see what you're saying, because maybe the records stopped on that. Okay, I see. I see.
So it looks like he called 911 first. Yeah, I don't know. That's the other thing why is it would be good to have his the audio of his. That's one thing that I could never really narrow down. Really, who called who first. You can only tell by certain things that are said at the certain time. But both of those 911 calls are pretty important, and they're both relevant to what we're talking about because we're talking about what happened on January 17th, 2015. So. Let's see. They went to Florida. We hadn't seen any movement over there. We just thought they were gone for Christmas. We came back from Florida this week, and they still hadn't, and the presents were still there. So my husband went over there to go check. So,
and do we know when they went to Florida? Was it after Christmas?
well, if she says we thought they were gone for Christmas, they must have been there during Christmas, I would assume.
And then they went to Florida.
They went to Florida in January, if I remember correctly. It was like January 9th or something like that. It was in not late January, but it was, yeah, early January. I mean, if they said we just got back from Florida this week, then obviously, they got back at least by January 10th, around that time. So it's not 100% clear, but I do think when she was in the group, I do think she kind of mentioned something like that they had left in January. It's like January 5th or January 9th, something like that. Yeah. I'm trying to think if we may have covered everything that I wanted to cover. Um, Unless anyone can think of anything else.
No, I can't, not for today. Just kind of really wanted to keep this just about them, their the family.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's everything for that day. So I guess we can go ahead and shut this one down here.
Well, before we do, I do want to make one statement. I
Mhm.
spent the last 2 days scouring pages of people who supposedly were family, friends, or whatever of David and Kamel. Both of them, actually. I looked up both sides. And I could not find one person, not one person, other than Allison had one photo of David and Kamel, but it happened to have, Dan Jr. in there as well, which is probably why. Yeah. But nobody, no photos of this family ever. And I went back, all the way back, as far as I could on these people's photos. And I wasn't doing this to stalk them. I was doing this to see who remembered these people that they say so much were their friends. And there wasn't one. And that is devastating to me. This family, if it wasn't for the work that all of us put into this family would be completely forgotten by everybody. And that breaks my heart. This family was brutalized, they were murdered, and nobody cares. Well,
And
except for us.
not only were they brutalized and murdered, but they're still being slandered to this day. David's being called a child killer, a family annihilator, just horrible things. And it's disgusting.
I agree.
And those of us who are supporting this case, the things that they are calling us for supporting David and standing up and trying to get justice for this family. So, I mean, it's sad, but thankfully, uh, I made a post in the group today in remembrance of uh, the family, and there have been quite a few wonderful comments, very heartfelt comments left in the family's memory from group members, and it's it's been good to see.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And thank you for helping me with that today.
Yeah, I think as far as David's sister, she seems more like private, and I can only tell you, I I know there are people that will post on social media if there's a death in the family or if there's something like that. I'm not
Well,
that
she
type of
posted
person.
photos of her mom. She posted one photo of Rania saying she missed her on her 6th birthday. She posted several photos of her mother.
But nothing
No
of David.
photos of David or Camille.
Interesting. That's
None.
interesting. I believe David's dad thinks that there was a pact between David and his wife to kill themselves and to kill Rania. I don't know why a smart, intelligent person like David's dad would believe that, unless he's surrounding himself with some really nasty people. Um, but I really wish that I could have, just 5 minutes to talk with him and just really explain to him why that is just not, it is not possible. So he has to know that. He needs to really know that is just not. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it's not
No,
really
there's no
probable.
evidence of a pact. You cannot, and he should know better. Not only is this his son, but this is his daughter-in-law and his grandchild, and he saw how much those two loved their daughter. And who is going to brutalize their child in such a way? If they're not, deranged. There are deranged people who do stuff like this, but David was not deranged, neither was Kamel.
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to do this to get attention, I think they would let the whole world know.
Yeah, and you could
Yeah,
do it a whole lot easier. Shooting your child in the head. I mean, that's up close and personal. I think that they would have found a better way to do it.
and I don't think that he would have left Paleo alive.
Exactly. Because that's pure torture on that animal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the cruelest thing. I mean, between Paleo and Rania, that those are the two things that get me every time.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know. I'm sorry. There was something else I was gonna say, and now I'm drawing a blank.
Well, it's so late for you. But
Yeah, there's.
my parting words to David and Kamel and Rania is that we're not going to stop. We're going to keep fighting. We will keep pushing as long as we can. We will bring out everything we ever find. And at least as far as we are concerned, you are not forgotten.
uh, for those who are listening and you have heard the narrative about them descending into or spiraling into madness and everything, it's just creative writing. If you look at the photos for the fall in his journal, they look like they are having a great time together. If you look at his searches for his computer, they're just normal searches. If he was bunkers, those searches would have been so erratic. And I just I just want people to know that the narrative that you're hearing from the documentary and from certain people is complete BS. And there are three people who deserve to be remembered as loving people. And hopefully we can find some justice for them.
Well, I think you both have. I think you both have been a big part of keeping the justice going. That's you have to don't forget that. These are victories. Everything both of you two have done, and many other people too. These are victories. There is justice. Whoever the real killers are will know. There are people out there that are going to continue to try to get justice. It's all in God's hands. But everything that both of you two have done have helped me. Have helped me so much, and I know it's probably helped a lot of other people too. So don't forget that how much of a contribution both of you two have helped with this and continue to help. And everything that we've said in the past, I mean, all that stuff. There's new people learning about this case that are researching videos that you may have made years ago. You just don't really know. And so just I'm so happy to have you both here. This show that we're looking at, we just passed the 2 hour mark here. This is only possible because both of you wanted to make this happen. Okay, that's the only reason why this happened, and that's
And the fact
what
that
we need.
you actually do the recording. So thank you. I mean, and the same can be said for you as well, Greg, and everybody else. I mean, I think it's definitely a concerted effort. It's all of us, everybody and even people who just leave one or two comments on videos online. They've helped things so many times as well. So thank you, everyone, and let's keep going.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Greg, for continuing to plug away at this and doing the podcast to get more coverage for this case and going on other interviews with other people to help. And your book, that has been a huge help too. So, really, thank you.
Well, thank you both for that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And you're both going to laugh at what I say next year, but I've been thinking about the podcast. I've been thinking about moving forward and everything. And don't laugh. Hey, don't laugh here, but I really want to do the next podcast and this every podcast we do, I want to keep it to about 30 minutes. What do you think of that?
Not gonna happen.
Oh, well, maybe you could cut it up, just let us talk and you can just cut it up and fit it into the 30 or 45 minutes that you want.
That's going to be my goal. 30 minutes, 45 minutes maybe maximum. And
So
I
you're
want to
going to
see.
talk about two sentences from your book, I guess.
Probably, probably. Yeah. I'll have Dan read one little paragraph and yeah, I'll have a timer and everything like that. And I want to see if the engagement is as good as when we do these longer shows. The engagement is really good, but man, asking people to spend a couple hours on, a podcast every month, I'm like, man, I don't know. Am I making this too long? We really wanted to keep this to 1 hour. Like you both know, that's why you both laugh because we have not. I've one show, maybe two shows, I've been able to keep to under 60 minutes. Dan and I did it once, and it was only because it was just he and I, and that was it. We went about 45 minutes, and I forget which show that was. But there's so much to cover in this next podcast that we have coming up, which will be about Sidra. It will be about Kamel's sister, and so I'm hoping we can do 30 minutes and end it right there. That's my goal.
I will help you, but you have to listen to me because when you're like, Catherine, let me know that it's time to cut it off. And when I do, you just kind of giggle and keep going.
You're right. You're right. Right. All right. Well, you're gonna be my
Awesome.
timekeeper then. All right. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining, for listening, for participating, for caring about this case. You can find Catherine. Make sure that if you look for Catherine on YouTube, it's Catherine with one L. So Catherine, Michele. You will find her. And of course, if you put in her name into the YouTube search and put in David Crowley, it'll come up. If you put in Sophia and David Crowley, some stuff should come up too. I've tried to make that relevant, and we're encouraging and going to force Sophia at some point to make a YouTube channel when I can see she's not too happy about that. I will make one for her and just post all of the clips that she's done if she doesn't do it
Okay.
at some point. But she did a great show with Crip Rick, and I think that was an awesome show. I want to thank Crip Rick. I want to thank everybody in our chat room. Iconic Meerkat, who for some reason I for years kept calling Meek Rat. I have no idea why, but I want to thank everybody who has joined, everybody who has listened in, and we will continue to try to get justice for this family the best that we possibly can. It's all in God's hands, but we all will do our part, and God bless you all. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and shut this stream down. This was January 17th, 2022, and we were talking about January 17th of 2015. Hopefully we stayed on topic too. That's the other thing I need to get better at is when we do these shows is to stay on point, to stay on topic. But the more that we do this, the better that we get, hopefully. And I'll tell you, every time that we do these shows, I learn something more, and so, what I'm learning about the podcast is I do want to try to keep these podcasts shorter, and I'm going to try my best. And you'll know on February 1st if I've succeeded or if I've failed. So, time will tell. God bless you all.